This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 350. Maybe I probably should have checked the episode number before, but that would be something that an intelligent person does or an organised person, and that is not me. And that actually brings us on nicely to today's episode, where we speak to a very special guest, Emma from Pronunciation with Emma. You've probably heard of her. She is big in the English teaching world. And today we talk about how to be organised, because I was listening to some podcasts the other day, and then Emma's podcast just came on, and it was about how to be organised. And I thought, you know what, that's interesting, because I am desperate to be organised. Okay, so I thought I would talk to Emma and kind of play devil's advocate, meaning when she gives us a hack, let's say a productivity hack, how to be organised, how to be productive, I then tell her something which says, you know, I've tried this, but how can you make this work for an idiot like me? So if you are an idiot like me, or a lazy person, or not organised, hopefully this podcast will be useful, okay? Because Emma shares some tricks and even says to an idiot like me how to be organised, okay? So that's the premise of the episode, that's the idea. So now let's jump to the episode, and I will talk to you at the end. Happy listening. So hello Emma, and welcome back to Rock and Roll English.
Hello, it's been so long. How have you been since we last spoke like 4 years ago?
4 years ago, yes, a lot has changed. And then we discovered in our pre-podcast chat that basically you left the UK at that point and I moved back.
Yeah.
And I also mentioned to you, I don't know why I moved back, but now you are in sunny Barcelona, right?
I am. I mean, it's funny you say sunny Barcelona, because today it's quite cloudy. I can see like a tiny patch of blue sky, but yeah, normally it's much sunnier.
That does make me feel a little bit better, I must admit, because it's absolutely freezing here today in the UK.
Yeah.
And when I see those things, I saw literally just yesterday, so we're recording this on the 7th of February, from the 6th of February, a few years ago, I was in Sicily. I was actually at the beach in the water, and it makes me feel sick.
Oh, it's so sad.
But exactly. So let's talk about some happier things. So although it was 4 years ago that we spoke like properly on a podcast, our paths did cross fairly recently-ish in a kind of course that we were doing. Mm-hmm. And I actually missed one of the sessions, and I was watching the recording, and I was actually not really watching but listening when I was driving. And I think it was like talking about problems you have, and then you were talking and you said, my problem is I sit down at the computer, I've got so many things to do, and then I start doing one, and then I start opening new windows, and I get lost, and I don't even know what I was supposed to be doing. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, oh my God, that is me. So I thought we could talk a little bit about this, and then try for both of our, for our sanity, to think about how we can stop doing this. So first question, are you still like that when you sit down at the computer?
100%. Yep.
Right.
Okay. I've maybe got a little bit better. I've now started implementing like a few little tricks and things, which I can definitely share. But I think it's just part of my personality. It's just me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same, but obviously these days it's so easy to open things, isn't it? For example, a classic thing I will do is I think, okay, right, I have to send someone a message on Facebook. When I recently contacted you on Instagram, might think, right, I'm going to send Emma a message, and then you watch a video, and then, for example, I think there's an actor, and I think, oh, how old is that actor? Let me just Google that, and then I'm opening Google, putting in how old is Will Smith.
Yeah.
Completely forgotten that I've got to send it. But you did mention you've got some tricks then. So tell us these, because like I think I'm getting worse with this. So any tricks and tips are more than welcome.
So when it comes to like this very specific part of, you sit down at your computer or your laptop and you have to do work, overcoming this overwhelm, is that even a correct sentence there? Yeah. But a lot of the time, like I've realized the reason why I feel overwhelmed is because I don't know where to start. And maybe I do know where to start. Like, I know that I need to create a document, for example, but it's actually the tiniest steps that I need to do. It isn't just create a document. Actually, it's research the topic. It's create the template. It's find which videos and resources I need to link, about like all these tiny little tasks that make it up. So what I started to do was at the start of the day, I would write down exactly what I was gonna do that day. And I try to limit it to about 3 tasks. It depends, because if it's something like reply to emails and I know it's going to take me 2 minutes, I don't cheat and I'm like, what? Well, that's done, Like, if I know it's going to take me like a few minutes or something, then yeah, it may be 4 or 5 tasks. It really depends. Okay. And by shortening the number of tasks down, because maybe I have 20 tasks that I need to do, but by shortening the list down, it makes it a lot less overwhelming for me. And
but do you actually manage to finish those tasks? Because my to-do lists, so I generally have lots of to-do lists on paper that I lose. And another thing that I always do is when I read a book, I get lots of ideas, and I still like the sort of real books. And then if you look in any book that I read, there's a to-do list in the back of that book.
Really?
And then I lose that. But now I do have a Google document, and I write stuff on there. But for example, you mentioned responding to emails. So that is something which I always put on mine. But then I think I don't want to use like my good brain energy now to do that. So I'm going to try and do the more difficult thing.
This is a really good point.
Okay, well, that's good. But then when I get later in the day, I think I haven't even got the energy to respond to those emails now, even though it's only a 2-minute task. And that's why I'm terrible at responding to emails.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Sometimes it can take me days to respond to emails simply because I'm like, I need to like take advantage of this energy that I have in the mornings. And then by the time it gets to the afternoons, I'm like, I can't be bothered to answer emails. Like, I'm not going to give my 100% to the people, that I'm responding to. So I'd rather just not do it. It's interesting because I've definitely been, I wouldn't say researching, but I've come across things that talk about perfectionism. And sometimes we don't do these things. It's like I said before, like, oh, I don't want to send these emails because I'm too tired. Okay, well, if you're too tired, like physically tired, that's something else. But if it's a case of, well, I feel like I'm not really going to do a good job if I send these emails, or if I plan this YouTube video that I need to film tomorrow, like the script isn't going to be as good, blah, 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 then a lot of the time it comes from this fear of perfectionism. And sometimes it depends. Like, I'm saying this very generally. Done and completed is better than perfect. Yeah, or done and completed is better than not done, is what I want to say, Because if you're always waiting for something to be perfect and then you're not doing it, then it's going to sit on your list forever.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. But you mentioned you have these tasks, and the few times where I actually do manage to do all of those tasks, it is a great feeling, I must admit. But
a little
those
dopamine
days,
boost.
Yes, huge. But those days are few and far between, to say the least. Yeah.
I tell you something. I read a book called 4,000 Weeks.
I've heard of that book.
Yeah, I can't remember who wrote that book. Maybe you can have a quick search while I'm telling people about this book. That's me delegating there. So the book essentially talks about this idea that we only have 4,000 weeks on average to live. Okay.
Okay. It's
And
Oliver Berkman, by the way.
that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have around 4,000 weeks to live on average. And what we do as humans is we want to conquer the world every day, and we want to achieve everything. We want to travel to every single country. We want to do everything that's on our to-do list. So we wake up in the morning full of energy. We have a cup of coffee. We're dosed upon caffeine. And then we sit down and write our to-do list, and we're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get through this 20 things, because we're so optimistic, right, as humans. And then it gets to the end of the day, and you're like, oh my God, I've only done 2 things. And those 2 things weren't even the things that were meant to be done today. Like, these are the things that are due, like, in 2 weeks. I've done this all wrong. And he talks about how to deal with this, this kind of fear that we have, that we're not able to achieve everything. Because for sure, when it's got to the end of the day and then you've not achieved everything on your list, you feel really anxious and you feel really bad. And that cycle just repeats every single day. And then you're like...
The story of my life.
Yeah, and then you're just like, why am I like this? You know, I'm such a disaster. And then you get stuck in this loop of, God, I'm never achieving anything. I'm never getting anywhere. I'm never, reaching my goals. I'm such a disaster. I'm so behind in life. And everyone else on social media is doing amazing. And he talks about this. And he's basically like, just accept the fact. It sounds really morbid, right? But once I sat with this and I was like, okay, I accept this now. Once you accept the fact that you're going to die, right? And
real happy podcast.
I know, keeping it lighthearted. And that you are not going to achieve everything, and that it's human to want to try and achieve everything, but physically you're not going to be able to, and therefore you should just calm down.
Yeah.
That's it. I was like, wow. Actually, he's right. At first I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But of course, it's going to happen. And thinking, actually, if I don't get to my emails today, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. And I really like this anxiety that I had about not completing these 20 tasks on my list. They were gone. Like, I would say like a day or 2 after, reading this book, I was like, wow, he's right. And one tip he suggested, which is the tip that I recommended, was instead of trying to write down all 20 tasks you need to do, just write down like 2 or 3 and make sure they're realistic.
I think that is also my problem, thinking like I should that will only take 10 minutes, that will take 20.
No.
But in reality it takes much longer. But it takes longer because I'm getting lost on the internet of opening a new window. Like I mentioned, maybe I'm interested how old Will Smith is, and then I start thinking, oh, when did he slap that guy again? What was that? 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
That was a while,
I'm just getting more and more lost.
Yeah.
And then I just take a step back and think, what am I doing? So one thing I've got, actually, I'm not sure if it's on my desk, but is a really cool timer. And it looks really cool. I mean, if I could show you, not just like on your phone, and setting that for a set amount of time, I think is really good. Because this is the thing, I've tried all these productivity hacks, and I've bought all of these productivity courses and stuff. A website I used to use this did used to work. I can't remember. It was Focus Sessions or something like that. And you just say, for example, okay, tomorrow at 9:00, I need a focus session. And then you go online and you talk to a completely random person. And then you both just say, right, what are you going to do in this session? And you say, I'm going to write the script for my YouTube video. And the other person says, I'm going to do this report for work. And then it's mics off, but cameras are still on, but obviously you're not looking at the other person. And then at the end, you say, how did it go?
Yeah.
I did that for a long time. And that did really work. Lot of awkward conversations, I must admit.
If they're strangers.
Which kind of put me off. And the other thing which stopped me doing it, when I first did it, one session I didn't go, I can't remember why, and I forgot to cancel it. And then I got an email saying like like, you can't do this. 3 strikes, you're out. And I was like, oh my God. But then another time, like, I don't know, 6 months or a year later, I missed another session and I didn't get that email. And then I thought, like, there was almost no consequence to it. So I lost that motivation to, I need to be told off. Like, I've just got that. I've got that ingrained. I've got it ingrained in my head. So yeah, that's that did work. But then, like I said, like, also since I've had children, it's a bit more difficult of, like, even just having that 1 hour, probably get a phone call and, like, oh, you need to clean this poo or something like that.
Happens to me as well, of course.
Right.
With the dog.
Not pooing yourself.
happens to the best of us. But this idea of having a timer is really good. I really like using the Pomodoro timers.
So I've tried this one as well. So this technique, I've heard it's like you can only stay focused for 25 minutes, and you do that for 25 minutes and then you take a break for 5 minutes. But the problem is I have with that is, we really concentrate for those first 25 minutes and then the timer goes off, but I'm not disciplined enough to actually stop what I'm doing, because I think, no, but I'm really involved in this task. I'm in the flow. So I'm going to, and then I think maybe what happens is I keep working too much and then I kind of lose that energy.
Yeah.
Whilst from what I understand, the way this method works is like you take a break when you still want more, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So then you want to go back. I've heard this, like, for various different things. If you stop something when people still want more, they're going to go back. But if you just keep going till everyone's tired, they're not going to go back.
Exactly. Actually,
same.
I used to do exactly the same. I was like, no, I'll just crack on. Like, I'm in the flow.
Yeah.
I'm in, what is it, deep work or something. There's a name for everything nowadays, right? But I've definitely found that once the Pomodoro timer goes off, I'm like, right, stop. And then I'm just going to leave my office. And I'll just do some stretches. I'll stand on my balcony and stare at people, like an old woman. I'll do whatever.
And it's 25 minutes, the timer, yeah?
Depends. I actually set mine a bit longer because I find that it takes me like 5 or 10 minutes to get into the work.
Into it, yeah.
So I set mine for 55 minutes.
Right, okay.
And I find that that's the perfect time for me. But some people may think, oh, that's way too long, Emma. Like, I need 25. Right. It's really personal. Yeah.
And then you actually do stop and then get back into it.
One thing I do as well is co-working online.
Right.
And we do exactly
here is
that.
my timer, by the way.
That's the timer, yeah.
It's pretty cool. So if you listen to the podcast, you can watch the videos, you do that. And then so you've got a real visual and you think, and I do enjoy that of thinking, oh my God, I've only got 2 minutes left. I really need to keep going. But then, like you said, I'm not disciplined enough to stop with that. But so, the co-working thing, that sounds great, but it's just, I always think my days now are so, like, anything can happen. And I wouldn't want to let people down, like, to have that, I was going to say impeño, the like the interruption? Appointment, let's say. No, like to have that appointment, a meeting. I can't think of the English word for that, but like this appointment with someone. Yeah. Like that kind of adds a bit of pressure to my day.
Yeah. Like the commitment. Yeah.
Commitment, that's a better word, yeah. Because appointment's more for like doctors, isn't it? Which in the UK, it's more like a doctor. You don't have an appointment with someone. I'm just confused with Italian there.
Yeah. False friend.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that's kind of like some tips, I suppose, about how to stay focused. I think the thing I've taken away from this, from what you told me, is to be disciplined and stop when my beautiful timer goes off.
I mean, it's a beautiful timer. Yeah. Like
I've bought a few of these as well. I had a round one. I've honestly spent about at least £100 on timers just to tell you, like, how much of an idiot I am, because what I always think, or this new thing I buy is going to change everything. That's my problem. Yeah. And again, if I think of like the actual time I've spent, maybe when I'm supposed to be doing a task, and then I'm looking for something to be productive, because I think if I find this thing, so if I just keep searching on Amazon for 2 hours, then it's going to change my life, like this timer. And it helps, but has it changed my life?
Not yet.
Not really, but it is beautiful. But yeah, I'm going to stick to the times and actually stop when it goes off.
Yeah. This is what I like about doing co-working, because I co-work with other language teachers, and we just jump on a Zoom call. Like, we have a WhatsApp group and we jump on a Zoom call, and it can be very free as well. Like, sometimes, some people will say, oh, I'm going to start at 10:30 this morning. If anyone's around, they'll jump on the call, and you're like, oh, well, I can't join at 10:30. I'll join in half an hour or something. So it makes it a bit more flexible. Yeah. And because you have these forced breaks, like if you're in a room with, 3, 4, or even one other person, like it forces you to have that break because you've got other people who are having that break. And of course they all unmute, because then you can't work. So it forces you into it.
Okay. Right. Okay, that's another good one then. Yeah. So recently I was listening to a podcast. I was cycling my bike, and then the podcast finished. It went to another one, and I suddenly heard your voice. Ooh. And I was like, "Oh, this is strange. I wasn't expecting this."
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah,
after 4 years.
That was your first episode in 4 years?
No. I think it's been my first episode in probably about a year, or 8 months or something. Yeah, I stopped for a while.
And it was about how to set goals and achieve them. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was, is this the girl that told me that she's the most disorganized person in the world? Yeah. But so I thought it was really interesting. And so I thought you can help us, for lazy, stupid people like me. Mm-hmm. Tell us how to set goals. Because again, I've read all the books. One book I read, which I really did like, but I was just too lazy to implement it, was a 12-week year. And so that's dividing your year into 12 weeks. So a year, let's say, is 12 weeks. So then you've got, the way it works is, so you set your goal for these 12 weeks. So basically you've just got shorter time to do it, because obviously the classic thing, January the 1st, this year I'm going to do this. And then that's kind of too long. Like the deadline's too far away, but if it's got a closer deadline, so I'm going to lose, 10 kilos or something like that. Yep. If it's got a closer deadline, it's more likely you're going to do it. That was the premise of the book. And I thought that's really good. It's brilliant. I totally agree with everything. Put the book down, then it's kind of like,
it is gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
It's interesting, actually. I've been doing this, but I didn't realize it was a thing.
Already a book, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually took this idea from the business world. So in the business world, you essentially split your business into quarters. So you've got Q1, quarter one, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and every quarter you have business goals. So it could be, right, in Q1 we're going to launch a new course and we're going to hit X revenue. We're going to launch a new podcast in Q2 and so on, right? Yeah. And I thought to myself one day, it was at the start of this year, I was like, why don't I do that with my life? Why not? It makes sense to do this with my life. So for Q1, one of my it sounds very businessy, but for Q1,
to be honest, even when I hear that term, if I get an email and someone says Q1, I just think
it's so cringe. I hate it.
It is so cringe.
Yeah.
Q1, Q2.
I know. But so for my first 12 weeks, I could say, between January and March, basically. So January, March? January, end of start of April. One of my goals, and it's a very, very simple goal, and this is the key to really sticking to your goals, is to be able to do one push-up. Now, that sounds so basic and so small, but I can't do a push-up.
Right, okay.
And in order to be able to do a push-up, it means that I've got to get stronger. So instead of telling myself I need to go to the gym and lift weights and do press-ups and push-ups and whatever other ups, you need to do to be
chin-ups. There's another up.
Chin-ups, yeah. I don't know what all of them are. Still learning. I'm learning them in Spanish, which is great. But yeah, I was thinking, instead of setting this goal of, I need to go to the gym and do all these things like 3-4 times a week, I know I'm not going to do that. I know myself, I'm not going to do that. So what I did was, again, I came at it from like a language learning and a business point of view. So I was like, okay, if I had the goal of doing this thing in a new language, say Japanese, what would I do to get there? Well, I would hire a teacher. I would take classes with a teacher, right? So for me, it made sense, instead of just buying all this expensive gym equipment and doing it at home, or buying like gym memberships and stuff like that, I invested in a personal trainer.
Okay.
Is it cheap? No. I can definitely save more money if I go to the gym and pay, 40 euros a month or whatever. But by having a personal trainer, I have someone to hold me accountable. I definitely go to my session, and by God, does my personal trainer push me. But it also really helps me to see my progress. So actually, I went to my personal session. I went to my gym session today, my personal training session. And I remember when I first started, we're recording this on the 7th of February, right? When I first started, I started like 2 weeks before Christmas, because in my head, I was like, I'm going to get ahead, on 2025, going to get ahead on this push-up goal for Q1, give myself an extra 2 weeks, right? And I could hardly even lift like a 4-kilo weight or a 5-kilo weight, like above my head. Now, people listening, they may be like, well, that's like nothing, like 4 kilos, 5 kilos is nothing. There, to you, it's nothing. But to me, it was really hard lifting like a 5-kilo weight. And today, we did 9 kilos, right? That's
impressive. That's like more than 100% increase.
Right, exactly. And when was that? That was like 5, 6, 7 weeks ago. Yeah. Another thing as well is I did like a deadlift. I don't remember all the terms, but you have like this bar around you, like a hexagon, hexagon kind of around you, and you kind of squat, and it's like a type of deadlift. And he put 30 kilos on, and I was like, oh mate, I'm not going to be able to do this. This is like way too much, 30 kilos. He's like, no, go ahead. I think you can do it. And I did it. I was like, oh, this is all right, actually. Never would I have believed.
So I suppose the big question is, have you done the press up yet or no?
Okay, so kind of, right?
So we had that big build up for a kind of answer.
So 2 days ago, I was sitting in the living room, and I said to my boyfriend, I wonder if I can do a push-up. Right, just as you do. We're like just watching TV in the living room, and I was like, "Oh, I have this sudden spout of energy. Like I'm gonna do a push-up. I wonder if I can do a push-up." And he was like, "Pues venga, like go on, do it." Like we didn't even think it was weird. He's like, "Just go ahead and do it." So I got like down on the floor. The floor's covered in like dog hairs, right? Like it's disgusting.
Lovely.
I want to really set the scene here, right? I'm like still in my pajamas, and I couldn't quite do it. Like I did it a little bit, and I was like, well, that's progress, but it's not a full push-up. That's not what I want. Right, okay. So he said, well, why don't you just try it on your knees, like not using your toes, right? That's a good idea. Try it on your knees. And I did it. So I kind of have reached my goal. I feel I'm 50% there.
Okay.
And I couldn't do that before.
Oh, that's progress. I think with anything, and I think I read somewhere, I can't remember where, but that's like happiness for humans is progress. Yeah. Because when you are, stuck in a rut kind of thing, doing the same routine, not going anywhere, that's when I think people start feeling sort of down and depressed. Definitely. Because just every year is the same, like you've done nothing. So progress in any form is is always great. But it was interesting. So you mentioned you invested in a personal trainer, and I think this more and more now about I've done various different things, and it's just, for me, it's like I need to actually financially invest in something. And sometimes like I've done various different like coaching things for business and stuff, and the things they tell me to do, I already know, and I think I know this. It's not like I'm paying someone and they're giving me this like unbelievable secret. But it's just the fact that I just think if I pay for this, I'm going to do it. Whilst,
I'm the same.
And not only that, I mean, this sounds even more ridiculous. I've paid for other like courses and stuff, but if I haven't paid enough money, I stop those courses. Like if I've only paid, I think, up to like £100, that's not enough for me.
Oh, okay, you've got to go big then.
I've bought various different courses for £100.
Yeah.
And especially if it's like a self-study course thing, and then you watch the first couple of videos, and then after that I just think, God, like I've got to go home, I've got to put the password in, I've got to open the computer, and but if I had spent like £1,000 on that, then I would do it. It's just how my small brain works.
My boyfriend is the same. He calls it his amoeba brain.
Right.
It's
okay.
like, oh, my little amoeba brain works.
Nice.
Or his chimp brain, he calls it. But I'm the same to a certain degree. Like I definitely need some external motivation. Whether that's financial, but I tell you something as well that's also started really getting me thinking about how I spend my time and being more productive. Like, I really don't like this idea of we should always be productive, grind, be productive, because you need some downtime, right? Like, I love sitting and, rotting while playing The Sims, right? For like 7 hours straight. But one thing is that money, of course, this depends. I'm speaking very, very generally here, but money is something that you can always get back, but time is something you will never get back.
Yeah.
So it's really, really got me thinking about, okay, I've got this free afternoon. Instead of rotting on the sofa with my dog watching old episodes of House, why don't I go to the forest for a walk with my dog? And I'll take some nice pictures and create some nice memories. Of course, there are days where I do need to sit and rot on the sofa while watching repeats of House. But it's really got me thinking more about like the time investment, not just the financial investment.
I totally agree with that. But what other tricks have you got then to keep goals and maintain them? Because, for example, one of the things when I listened to this podcast, you mentioned about writing your goal down, which I have done lots of times, and then I lose a piece of paper that the goal was written on. So what's your plan for that then, again, for idiots like me that can't even manage to follow those instructions?
Okay, so there are a number of things that you can do, right? So if you're one of these people that's like, right, it's, the 1st of January, I'm going to write down all my goals, and then, you lose the piece of paper, and then you find it like 7 months later, and you're like, oh yeah, I did want to lose 10 kilos, or you know what I mean? So instead of setting, you can go about this in different ways, okay? This is an idea. But one thing you can do is, instead of setting goals, you can set a theme for the year. So instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, right? Instead, you could tell yourself, well, my theme of the year is strength. And instead of setting this goal, this tangible goal of, going to the gym 3 times a week, then maybe you wake up and you're like, actually, I don't really feel like going, or I'm on holiday this week, and then you don't achieve that goal, and then you feel bad. But if you instead attach a theme to your year, or a theme to your month, or a theme to your quarter, whatever you want to do, it helps you then make more mindful decisions about certain things. So, for example, like my theme of the year is strength. Last year, it was belief. Okay, sounds cheesy, but it worked. So last year with belief, it was, I want to have this belief that I can achieve the things that I set my mind to, because I was so scared of doing certain things for so many years that I never did those things. And one was traveling really far outside of Europe by myself. So with this belief feeling, this belief theme, I basically told myself, well, I just need to believe that I can go. Like, if I research this trip, I know it's going to be a safe trip. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get a SIM card as soon as I land, and, all of these other things. Then
and
I
out
have
of interest,
belief.
did you do that?
Yes, I did.
If so, where did you travel to?
I traveled to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Bangkok by myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was terrified. But every time I felt this feeling of like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm literally on a plane by myself. Like, what am I actually doing? I just told myself, Emma, you've researched this trip. You have a full Notion document with everything there. You know where you're going. You know what to do. It's okay. If there's an emergency, don't worry. Like, you have your phone, blah, blah, blah. And I just believed in myself more. And that was my theme. When it came to climbing, I wanted to be able to increase my climbing level. So for the longest time, I was climbing at like 5 A, B, and C. This won't mean anything to people, but it's just to give an idea.
It doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah.
So let's say I was climbing at a level 5. Okay.
Right, okay.
Which isn't that difficult, but I was always like, oh, but it's safe. Like, I feel like my feet aren't going to slip. I feel like, if I fall, then it's easy to fall on these sorts of things, So I started pushing myself. Well, Emma, just believe that you can do a level 6 and push yourself a bit more. And I did. I started to do 6A, 6Bs, which again is not going to mean anything, but
it's higher than 5.
I achieved a higher level. Yeah. Because I told myself, just believe in yourself, Emma.
Now, that belief, so I heard that on the podcast. That was something I was going to bring up, actually. Yep. Because, so for the things that you just mentioned, I can see, I don't know, it just seems to make more sense to me. But, so on these various business things that I've done, and I think the one that we did, there's always the part at the beginning of any kind of course you do where you work with someone, and they always say, you have to work on your mindset. So and then you have to write down your goal, and you have to repeat your goal to yourself. And I've done these things. I found myself walking around the park. I even recorded myself saying this goal, and then I used to listen to that. But there's only so much you can listen to that before you start thinking, my God, this is weird. But so when you're doing this, let's say for a business goal, then, okay. Now, obviously, so we have online businesses, but it may just someone else, let's say, sounds horrible, a normal job.
Yep. Not a weird job like a YouTuber or something.
Yeah, and they want to get promoted and become CEO of the company, whatever. That's the thing where I find it a bit kind of woo-woo, I suppose, of I say, so woo-woo meaning a bit kind of people say this kind of thing. It's those people say it's, I don't know if it's true, but I say that, but I have done it. But a caveat to that is I've never done it maybe for long enough. And I always think, but do I fully believe this of what I'm saying? So if I say, for example, I can't even remember what the thing I wrote down was now, but let's say I say I'm going to earn £1 million every day, and I'm going to be the biggest the podcaster the world has ever seen, or something like that. I mean, obviously my goal wasn't that, but
obviously.
Yeah, but it's just like,
It
let's
could
just
have
use
been.
that as an example. I'm
Yeah.
going to earn £1 million every day. It's obviously ridiculous, but
Mhm.
like, how do you actually believe something like that? That's the difficulty that I have, like to actually fully believe that. And I don't
Yeah.
know, have you tried these things? Does it work for you?
So I have my ultimate goals
Okay.
in life. So like an ultimate goal could be I want to make 1 million a day. It's not mine either, but again for the podcast as an
Exactly, yeah.
example, right? Right? So that for me would be an ultimate goal. So I would basically work backwards from that, and I would say, okay, so to reach 1 million, I'm gonna try and achieve 500,000. Again, maybe that's too much. It depends where you are, you know. Okay, I'm gonna try and make 10k a month. Okay, I'm gonna try and make 1k a month. Like, you're gonna do it in steps, right? So your first goal towards your 1 million a month could be, I want to try and make 5k months. Okay. Then you think, well, how am I going to get there? Right. I have courses that are however much. How many courses would I need to sell in order to get there? So maybe it could be something like, right, I'm going to create a new course and it's €1,000. Again, I'm inventing, people, okay? It's €1,000. So what I would need to do every month is I would need to sell 5 of those courses to make my 5k goal. You know, you would build up like that.
Yeah, but are you good at tracking these things? So, for example, another thing which I've thought about recently, in the last few months, trying to get kind of like better financially, not like as in earn more money, but just know where I'm spending my money. And so I've created this beautiful spreadsheet, and I spent like probably a couple of weeks, and I want to physically input everything. I was looking through all my bank statements, and I was like, right, okay, I know exactly where I'm spending my money and things. This year I'm going to do it every Sunday night. I'm going to sit down and do my weekly, put down what I've spent. But I haven't done it.
Nah.
No, I haven't.
Because there's more admin. I hate doing more admin. I hate life admin.
That is true, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, because you obviously can get apps to do that for you.
I was going to say, like most banking apps nowadays, they have that feature.
Yeah, but I just thought it would just help. I thought it was going to help me doing it manually, because before I had the apps, and I just never look at them.
Of course.
So that's my difficulty of like setting goals and things. So like, so you mentioned, so whatever it could be. So I want to earn this much this month, and then next month I'm just not good at tracking them. So how do you make sure that you track these things?
So I definitely can't comment on the financial thing because that's not something I track. But let's say with the being able to do a push-up
goals in general.
Goals in general. I didn't want people thinking Emma's gonna give finance advice now, because I'm the worst person to ask. But so what I do with my my Q1 goal of doing one push-up, right? is I've given myself like little stages, like little steps. So it could be, for example, when I first started, so I set a benchmark, like where am I at the very beginning? When I first started, I could only just lift 4 kilos, right? A few weeks later, it's like, okay, let's go up a few kilos. Right, now I can confidently lift 6 kilos. Today, I did 9 kilos, okay? So that for me is like, okay, well, I'm getting somewhere because I can actually feel the difference. And that's how I'm tracking my progress with that. When it comes to tracking, say, like business goals, it depends what you're tracking. If it's like YouTube subscribers, you know, you have the timer, the countdown.
So
thing.
I'm just, as mentioned, trying to play devil's advocate here. And so let's say your goal, and this is again kind of, I say one of my goals, it's something I am becoming more and more mindful of, is to use my phone less, especially when my children are around, because sometimes I might find myself, I go down those rabbit holes of, I think I'm not going to use my phone, and then I pick up my phone for whatever reason. Maybe I got a message, and then I start researching Will Smith or something like that. To be honest, I'm not even a Will Smith fan. I don't even know why I'm using this as an example. He was just an actor.
Like 20 times.
Well, he was just an actor that came to my mind, and then I thought, well, I'll just stick with that example now. So, and then I could get lost down a rabbit hole, and then I think, God, what am I doing? Like, I'm an idiot. So let's say your goal is to use your phone less.
Which is one of my goals this year. Yeah.
Right, okay. So that, well, I suppose there is the numerical thing of, like, you get that screen time thing.
That doesn't work with me. I just cancel it.
It doesn't work. Right. It doesn't work with me. So, okay, so if that is one of your goals then, because that is a bit more difficult, and you're not looking at the statistics. So how are you tracking that, for example? Because for kilos, that it's sort of a bit easier to track, because, like you said, you went to the gym today, you lifted 9. It's kind of a bit easier. But like for your phone then, how would you track a goal like that? So
I have a very, very clear goal with that, and it's to use my phone for less than 4 hours a day, which again, when you think about it, you're like, 4 hours, that's a lot of time. But I also work on social media, so sometimes I need to do stuff on my phone. Like I use my phone for my work, so an hour to 2 hours of that could easily be work stuff.
Of course.
If it's a rotting day, then 4 hours is just TikTok and Instagram. But what I have is I have on my home screen the actual what is it called, the actual amount of screen time that I've used that day.
Interesting. Is this an app? How do you get that?
It's just on your phone. You can just create like a widget on your phone.
Right. Okay.
So you just I think it's like in the wellness settings.
Right.
So
okay. Are we talking iPhones here? Because that's what
I have an Android.
Right.
I'm an Android girly, but for sure it will be on your iPhone as well.
Okay.
But if you go into your home screen, and then you go into widgets, and then you look at like the wellness or whatever section it's called on iPhones, you can actually choose a setting, a widget option that is your screen time for the day.
Okay.
So every time I open up my phone, it will show me you spent 2 hours and 37 minutes. And I'm like, ooh, that's quite a lot. And my goal is 4 hours. So I'm really like, it's almost like a currency. Like I now start to see it as a currency, because I'm like, well, instead of spending like half an hour on the toilet, on my phone scrolling or whatever.
I'm so glad you said that, because I do that so often.
Everyone does. And if they say they
People just don't. Exactly. This is
You're
what
lying.
I think. People just don't. I totally
lies.
Agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's like when people say, I don't take my phone to bed or whatever. Lies! Everyone lays in bed rotting on TikTok and stuff for half an hour before they go to sleep, right? And if you don't, then you're weird. I'm joking.
You're missing out.
You're missing out. You're missing a real treat. But it's a common thing, is what I'm trying to say. So one thing I started to do was I realized what triggers, like when was I spending the most amount of time on my phone? And I realized it was in the mornings. So I would wake up before my alarm. I would spend about an hour on my phone in the morning. And that's already eaten into, a quarter of my 4 hours that I've dedicated for the day. So what I started to do was I just put my phone in another room. And then I have a watch. It's not like an Apple Watch, but it's a smart watch. And I just set an alarm on that. So once the alarm goes off, I'm like, well, I can't rot in bed on TikTok, so I've got to get up. It's boring here. What else can I do? So I get up, and then I end up starting my day earlier. And I bought myself back an hour of time. So I realized there were like little triggers like that. Also, it's really interesting. I've been catching myself doing this. I just instinctively, when I go to leave a room, I instinctively go for my phone and I take it.
Always do this.
Yeah. And now I'm starting to catch myself, and I'm like, what? Why am I doing that? That's so weird. Like, I'm just instinctively grabbing my phone, going to the kitchen or going to the toilet or going to bed or whatever. So now I'm catching myself in these moments, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I am now walking to the kitchen with the phone in my hand. That's fine. But instead of walking to the kitchen with it, I'm just going to put it on the table here, and I'm going to go to the kitchen without my phone.
Yeah.
So like little things like that have helped.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same with that reflex of, and another thing I find a classic thing for me is, let's say I'm uploading a podcast and I've got very high internet connection. It might take 10 seconds and then it comes up like the uploading. And in those 10 seconds, I'll think, right, well, I'll just touch my phone, and then that could be the start of going down a new
the gateway
rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is.
So that again for me, it's like just a thing that I say to myself now is just like, it's only 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to fill these 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Just watch the bar go up. It's only going to take 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Don't touch your phone. So that's one for me as well.
Healing my attention span is something I want to do this year. Right. So I mean, I've joked about like scrolling on TikTok. I don't actually have TikTok anymore on my phone. I removed it. I do have Instagram, but I have a timer on there. So before I said, timers don't work for me. They don't. I easily cancel them. But by having that reminder of, right, you spent 30 minutes on this, Emma, it's like, right, okay, yeah, I've spent 30 minutes. And it just makes me conscious so that I'm not, because you could just keep scrolling in before you know it, an hour's passed, right? Like half an hour feels like nothing when you're scrolling. So it just sends that little trigger, like, Emma, just be aware, just be mindful. You've spent half an hour on this. Like, I'm really trying to be kind to myself as well, and just be like, just be aware, Em, you spent half an hour on this. If you want to spend a bit more time, it's okay. You can do, you can add an extra 10 minutes, but
don't spend forever on it.
Yeah.
I have that same timer on Instagram. I find that doesn't work at all, because normally it will come up when I'm in the middle of a video that I want to watch, and then I'm just like, get away from me, you stupid timer. Like, I want to watch this video,
and then you cancel it and the video's
off his
gone.
Chair. Yeah. I actually paid for something which every time I opened any social media, it just came up with this thing and it just said, just breathe, and it would take 30 seconds. And it worked really well for about a month. And I was like, this has changed my life. And then, like you said, I also do things on social media. And then when you I was maybe putting a video on Instagram, and then I'd go back to do something, and then I got to go back, and then it was making me wait again, and I wanted to just throw my phone out the window. So then I cancelled that app. It did work really well when I wasn't posting for a while, but then it drove me crazy. But I do like the thing. I didn't know that you could have this screen time in general. You mentioned, so that is definitely something I'm going to do.
It just makes you more mindful. I guess maybe that's the theme of this. Is it's just being mindful and being like, oh yeah, actually I've already spent 2 hours on my phone today. I better put it away and actually do something, go touch some grass.
So I believe I am becoming more mindful of these things, but my worry is, I'm becoming more mindful, but I'm just noticing I'm doing these things. I'm still doing them.
That's the first step, right? Because there's doing these things and then not being aware. And then, because that was definitely me. And then the next step is, right, it's like acknowledging you have a problem, right? The next stage is acknowledging you have a problem. And then what's the next stage? Like denial that you have the problem or something. Like, there's all these different stages. But it's the next stage. Just being aware, like, because before I set the 4-hour limit, I was spending like 6 to 7 hours a day on my phone, which is absolutely insane. Yeah. Like, it is insane. And it's because I would spend like 2 hours in the morning and then 2 hours in the evening and then little bits, during the day. And maybe only like an hour and a half of that would be work, maybe 2 hours. So it's like, what am I doing for 5 hours? Like, this is actually insane. So I cut it down to 5. I think I cut it down to 6 hours. And then I was like, okay, I feel like this isn't like making much of a difference. Cut it down to 5, cut it down to 4.
That's a good idea.
So I've just been doing it like little by little. And the goal is by the end of the year to get it down to 3 hours a day, which again, still sounds like a lot, but I work on social media. So if it's 2 hours of work and 1 hour of whatever, that's fine for me.
Yeah. It's just amazing how much we use our phones. When I see my screen time, in my defense, I also listen to podcasts on my phone. Like I'll be listening to it and doing something else. So I'm not actually looking at the screen. But
if you turn it off, because I had the same thing, but still, if you turn the screen off but the podcast is playing, it doesn't recognize that the screen is on. No.
Well, I generally listen to podcasts on YouTube though these days. So because this is just again of how lazy I am. So when I open YouTube, it will generally immediately say like suggested for you, and I can just click. If I open a podcast app, I have to think about what podcasts I want to listen to. And that is too much brain power for me. This is just how lazy that I've become, and I think everyone is becoming. Everything is just so difficult now because everything's just getting easier and easier and easier to do.
And instant.
Exactly.
Amazon. The other day, my boyfriend ordered something on Amazon, and I was like, "Oh, what time will it arrive tomorrow?" He's like, "No, it's going to arrive this afternoon." And I was like, "What? What world do we live in where you can order on Amazon and then it arrives the same day?" Like, we really are just so spoiled.
So we have to be mindful of this, which is the first step. But okay, so coming towards the end then. So in a nutshell, if you said, for example, okay, let's do 2 things: how to stay focused, how to achieve your goals. What would you say?
God, that's such a huge question.
Well, I was just looking at like a couple of bullet points, like write it down, set it into steps, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can share some of the things that I've been following myself when it comes to being more organized and also setting goals and actually achieving these goals, because I really do feel for the first time in my life I'm actually achieving these goals.
Okay.
And these are things that I used last year as well, and they worked really well. Okay. So
just bullet points, just go boom.
Yeah. So the first thing was when you write down your goals, instead of saying, for example, I want to run 30 minutes every day, you change the wording to the kind of person you are. So the kind of person who does that action. So instead of saying, I want to run 30 minutes every day, you write, I am a runner who runs for 30 minutes a day. And then you're basically programming your brain to think, I am that kind of person. I'm not just running 30 minutes a day. I am a runner who runs 30 minutes a day.
Okay.
So that really helped. Another thing as well, and this is something I love to do at the start of the year now, is bingo cards. So, of course, you've got the classic bingo where it's like, what is it, like with the numbers, you know? So it'd be like 2 little ducks, 22, and then you cross them off and so on. But what you can have are very, very specific goals. So some examples I have for Q1, is to do 1 push-up. Is a very, very simple goal. If your goal is too vague and it's something like get fit, well, how do I know when I've got fit, right? Or learn Japanese. Where is the limit for me to know that I've learned Japanese? So the goal has got to be so specific and so like tangible, like you can smell it, you can touch it, you can feel it, you know that you've done it, and you can cross it off. Another is to complete 1 copywriting course this quarter. Right. It's so simple. If I do a copywriting course, it could be any, but if I'm like complete 1 copywriting course, that's so achievable. So yeah, I've got a few like bingo goals. And my final piece of advice, I mean, I have lots, but this has been the biggest game changer. And when I talked about this on my podcast episode, this was the one thing that people were like messaging me about, and they were like, oh my God, this like blew my mind. Like I've done this for like a week or so now, Emma, and it's been amazing. So I call it the if principle. I don't know if this exists, okay? But it's something I've been doing for a while. the if rule or if principle. You have your main goal that you want to do. Okay, so it could be go to the gym every day, right? That's your top goal. That's like your number one. If I can't go to the gym, I do Pilates at home with a YouTube video. That will be my second goal if I can't do that first one.
Yeah.
Then the next one. If I can't do Pilates at home and watch a YouTube video, I will do 30 squats while brushing my teeth. Right? So, my main goal is exercise, right? That's it. Like, do some sport, move my butt, okay? That's it. But by giving yourself this like if principle, it gives you a way out. So maybe you wake up in the morning and it's raining and you're tired and maybe you're a bit hungover because you went out, I don't know, whatever. And you're kind of like, I really don't want to go to the gym today. If I can't go to the gym today, I will do Pilates instead. So it removes this feeling of, oh God, I'm such a terrible person. I'm never able to achieve my goals.
Okay.
Because then you have something after. And this has changed my life.
And also a great way to practice the first conditional. Okay.
I'm
if I don't go to the gym, I will brush my teeth doing squats.
Exactly. Or even first conditional, zero conditional. Like if your grammar isn't to that level, if I don't do this, I do this instead. Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing all these productivity tips with us.
My pleasure.
I've definitely taken a couple of things which I'm feeling motivated now, so I'm going to definitely do something for the next hour, and then who knows.
Write another list.
Yeah, exactly. But so thank you very much for sharing these tips, and we'll see you soon. Maybe, hopefully, before 4 years this time.
I don't know. Maybe we can make it a 4-year thing. Every 4 years, I come back.
Exactly, like a World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks a lot, Emma, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Okay, so that was me talking to Emma about how to be organised, how to be productive. I hope you learned at least one thing, lots of different things that we both shared, because believe me, I have tried every single productivity hack that exists in the world. So maybe you may have even learned something from one of the things I mentioned, which doesn't work for me anymore. I generally find things work for me for a little bit, and then I get bored, and then I have to look for a new one. So if one of those things can help you, then I will be very happy. So thanks a lot for listening to today's episode. Remember to check out Emma. I'm sure you know who she is already, but just in case you don't, there are links to all of her stuff in the show notes to this episode. So thanks a lot for listening. I will talk to you soon, but in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.